The Bitcoin bull market is back. Why do I think this? We've got a few charts I'm going to get into today, as well as BlackRock, the biggest asset manager in the world, one of the biggest anyway, over $10 trillion of assets under management getting into Bitcoin and crypto. The CEO just announced a letter to their shareholders detailing some crypto focus and investments for their clients. I'm going to touch on that today, which is super bullish, as well as Terra buying $10 billion worth of Bitcoin. We've spoken about this recently and it's been widely covered in the crypto media. Diving into what they're actually doing, they're buying $130 million of Bitcoin per day. This is huge. In a market of Bitcoin that's already been very illiquid over Bitcoin on exchanges, we're going to get into why this is super bullish, as well as this sort of cycle that the UST, Lunar, and Bitcoin ecosystem is going to do to Bitcoin, as well as what are the long-term holders are doing. What have the hodlers been doing since December, since we peaked out at around 60,000? What have they been doing over the last 3 months, and why is this similar to what happened in 2013, just before a huge bull market erupted? Super bullish information. I'm going to touch on that, as well as the other side. We're not always bullish on the channel, trying to see both sides. There are some bearish indicators as well, and just some things that's going in the macro landscape, which we're going to touch on. But we have broken the trend of 46,000. We've been in an upwards trend. A lot of traders do trade on trends, and we've been in this sort of balance of between sort of 42 and 46,000 for the last 3 months. There's been a lot of resistance at 46, and we've broken through that. We're now above 47,000, and I think we could see an upwards trajectory from here on in. All that and more in today's Crypto Daily Show. G'day, I'm your host, Ben Simpson, coming to you from Perth, WA. Again, I'm on the road today, so I've got my manual set up, but again, trying to bring you all the latest in crypto in 8 to 10 minutes. So for you, the busy investor, you don't need to spend all the time doing the work yourself. We wrap it up and give you all the top things you need to know about to stay ahead of the market. If you want to know exactly what our analysts and what our team are buying and selling, we've got live portfolios across NFTs, early stage and long term, which have had great returns over the last few months. You can sign up for a 14-day free trial at Collective Shift. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe and give me some feedback below. Let's get into it. Bitcoin has broken through the $47,000 mark. We've been seeing a lot of traders earmark the $46,000 resistance that's been occurring over the last 3 months, and we've broken through that, as you can see, just recently, and now we're up around 47,500, which is awesome news. It's great to see Bitcoin really flourishing, and well done for all of those that have bought Bitcoin in the last 3 months. We saw all the short-term holders that bought back in December. 80% of those holders have now sold. Well done for you investors that actually were accumulating during that time. If you were, pat yourself on the back, because that is the time to be buying when there's blood in the streets. The fear and greed index was down at around 26 out of 100, and now we're back up to around 1670. So well done for those that were buying and accumulating during that time. Hats off to you. Now, some of the more bullish news overnight: the BlackRock CEO, who once labeled Bitcoin an index of money laundering, is changing his tune on crypto. So BlackRock is one of the biggest asset managers in the world, holds over $10 trillion of assets under management, and they are getting into crypto and Bitcoin. The CEO came out and said in a shareholder announcement, he mentioned BlackRock is studying digital currencies, stable coins, and the underlying technologies to understand how they can help us serve our clients, he told shareholders in a letter. Importantly, the comments, the CEO thinks own personal views, as the money manager doesn't per se take a house view on crypto. For example, BlackRock began trading Bitcoin futures early last year. So they have been trading Bitcoin futures, betting on the future price. It doesn't mean they own the underlying asset, but they have been pretty bullish in crypto previously, and had come out in the last 4 or 5 years saying crypto is just an index of money laundering. However, like most people that don't spend any time looking into this and see it at the surface, they think it's a Ponzi scheme, they think it's full of shit, they don't think it's backed by anything. But once you actually spend a few hours digging in and understanding what's going on in Bitcoin and crypto, your eyes really open up. And I think the macro landscape right now, with the war that's going on, inflation rates, the rising amount of money that's being printed, macro uncertainty, stock market, a lot of other markets really continuing to decline, Bitcoin and crypto, Bitcoin's up 30% over the last 3 or 4 months. This is an asset that, is probably one of very few assets in the world right now that is continuing to increase amongst everything that's going on. So more people are going to see this asset, learn about it, and start to understand, and more people are going to jump on board. So he came out and said in the shareholder letter that the conflict has become a catalyst promoting governments around the world to reevaluate their currency dependencies in view of the crippling sanctions imposed by Western allies on Russia. Sanctions that only have teeth due to linkages in the global financial system. By comparison, crypto and decentralized finance more broadly are designed with the purpose of circumventing traditional gatekeepers like governments and central banks that impinge on financial freedom. Bitcoin is completely decentralized. It's not owned by anyone. No one controls the narrative. No one can manipulate Bitcoin. It is a fixed supply, the world's trusted, most secure computer algorithm that continues to do its thing, and no one can do anything about it really. Like it's continuing to grow, and I think we're going to see Bitcoin continue to overtake the global financial system and one day become probably the global reserve currency, and more people getting on board. So $10 trillion worth of assets, just a little bit of that money going into Bitcoin could absolutely explode. Bitcoin's only around $1 trillion asset class alone, so just with BlackRock alone, I really think Bitcoin is bound to, over the next few years, continue to grow. Alongside this, we've been talking about Terra a lot, and Terra, Jose tweeted recently, Terra and the LFG organization are carrying the Bitcoin, this is the Lunar Foundation, are carrying the Bitcoin bull market on its shoulders. So if UST grows, as you should know by now, Bitcoin is being used as collateral for the UST stablecoin. I think it's top 4 biggest stablecoins in the world. More Sayonage used to buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin pumps, which gives more backing and trust for UST, which then gives UST more growth, which then goes back to buying more Bitcoin. And it's just this revolving cycle. And Lunar are buying $130 million of Bitcoin a day. UST is unstoppable, programmable money backed by the world's hardest asset. Super bullish. And we can see the Lunar Bitcoin address here. They have over 27,000 Bitcoins already in their wallet, 1.3 billion. And we can see just yesterday they bought 345 Bitcoin, plus 991, 997, 497. That's all in the same day. These guys are just buying more and more Bitcoin, lapping up all that supply. We know Bitcoin, it is deflationary, and the amount of Bitcoin coming into supply decreases every 4 years. And these guys are just lapping up the supply. They're just buying more and more Bitcoin and leaving less for the rest of us. Now we're seeing again on the charts, the 1 year HODL Wave. So this is showing basically the HODL Wave groups Bitcoin by age since it was last moved from one wallet to another. So this is showing the percentage of all Bitcoins that have not been moved from one wallet to another for at least a year. And that amount of Bitcoin since the start of the year had a decline. Basically, with the price of Bitcoin increasing, we see the OG, the long-term holders, the institutions, sell that Bitcoin as it goes up, taking profits. But we've seen as this accumulation phase, the Bitcoin holders continuing to accumulate, and more Bitcoin is being held by these long-term holders. We're up to about 63%, about the same, a little bit higher than where we were in the 2016, just before the 2017 bull run, which is really bullish news. And another chart that I think is really interesting is the Bitcoin short-term holders to long-term holders cost-based ratio. So this is looking at the ratio of the average price of short-term holders versus long-term holders buying their Bitcoin. So we can see here the ratio, the 2 deepest bear markets was in 2015 and 2019, and the ratio was around 1. And this is when the short-term holders are buying at lower price than the long-term holders. So this is the red circle. So short-term holders tend to buy at the top of the market, and this is retail investors that buy at the wrong time, and then they sell as the market goes down. What we can see here at the moment is the accumulation of the longer-term holders starting to build this accumulation, which is very similar, Mark, to back in the 2013, just before the bull market really erupted. And you can see where we had this price correction wasn't actually as deep as some of these old bear markets we've had, which is probably telling us, and Data Dash was talking about this recently, you can go and check his latest video, he was talking about how we haven't had that deeper price correction. And usually when we have this deeper price correction, when we get to these bear markets, the ratio is around 1, it takes a considerable amount of time for the price to come back, because we need a lot more catalyst for Bitcoin to sort of grow when you have that accumulation phase. But we haven't gone that deep. Where we've gone is very similar to 2013, just before we had that big price run up. So this is pretty bullish considering the price is chopping around. Yes, we had that correction, but very familiar level to 2013. And we haven't had that cycle capitulation event, which, if price and history is to repeat itself, is tending pretty bullish. Now, it's not all bullish news. Checkmate posted for members today that there is a lot of great things that are happening on chain, but we do need to have the macro context in mind. There are a lot of things that are happening in the macro landscape that we can't control. One of those is the ongoing war that continues to have negative externalities that come with them. We've got oil trading above $100. We've got global food shortage with the fertilizer shortage that, I was listening to the All In podcast recently. That's a great episode. Have a listen to that one if you want to learn about the food shortages. And basically the world only runs on a 3-month supply of food. And with Russia, not being able to lay their crops during this time, they have I need to go back and check this, but around 7% of the wheat supply in the world. And this has huge knock-ons on the global food security. We've got inflation rates, we've got mortgage rates mooning here in Australia. We've got the Federal Reserve continuing to try and fight inflation with a hammer when the problem is obvious more than a complex than a nail. Look, so there's a lot of bullish stuff, but just keep an eye on that there is some macro bearish things that are happening that can and already are being a catalyst for Bitcoin's growth. However, these are sort of uncertain times or an uncharted water, so just be careful of that, I guess, if you're trading on the short term. Long term continue to be ultra bullish. The ETF, I feel as though the ETF narrative's been going on for 2 or 3 years, and I remember back in 2017, 2018, the ETF was the only thing that were going to get us out of the bear market during that 2018 period. The ETF has continued to be declined, and crypto investment firm Grayscale has been working for the better part of a year to convert its Bitcoin trust, which has over $28.5 billion of assets under management, into an ETF. However, the US SEC continue to decline this ETF for American investors, and they're basically what Grayscale is saying, like they're actually considering, going on a lawsuit if they continue to decline it. Now, if you don't know what an ETF is, they do differ a little bit. Basically, they are financial instruments tied to other assets or a basket of assets and allow basically to trade these ETFs like company stocks, and the price of the Bitcoin ETF could vary closely to the actual BTC, but allows retirement portfolios and other, I guess, bigger institutions to get exposure to Bitcoin without actually holding the underlying asset. So it'd be interesting to see if that ETF gets approved soon. But Grayscale basically said they have over 800,000 accounts in the US waiting patiently to convert it into an ETF, which could be pretty bullish if that gets off the ground. Now, lastly, in NFT news, someone just sold a Bored Ape with the minimum floor price here is around $300,000 for only $115. Now, they've accidentally potentially sold this for a DAI instead of ETH, 115 DAI. However, there is some speculation that they may have sold this as a scam, but they potentially would have sold it to themselves as a bit of a tax evasion. So, depends if you buy into the conspiracy there, but someone has accidentally sold potentially $115 Bored Ape. So either A, well done if you scoop that up, or B, good luck if you're trying to avoid tax. I'm certainly not a component of that. I think the blockchain is a wonderful thing, and it's ultimately the worst technology to try and avoid tax because it's all there. It's immutable, it's not going anywhere, and anyone can look back at any stage and check that out. So that's all for me today. If you like this daily wrap up, again, trying to keep you ahead of the market, I'm super bullish on Bitcoin in the long term. There's a lot of great charts and just a lot of info that's coming out now that continues to build this compounding growth of Bitcoin. If you like these videos, I do these Monday to Friday in about 8 to 10 minutes, keeping you ahead of the herd. If you don't have time, if you're like me and you just need the experts to do the work for you, Collective Shift is here. We provide all the top analysis and research as well as our investments. We have live portfolios. You can get all of our alerts and buys and sells in NFTs, short-term and long-term. Our short-term's up 70% since September, and our long-term growth portfolio is up 10% against Bitcoin and ETH pairs in just a few months in a bear market. So we're super bullish about that. You can head over there for a 14-day free trial. But apart from that, please like and subscribe if you love these videos, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks, and bye for now.